to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about The Condemned, written by Eddie Robson. This is the first story in the Six Doctors monthly range stories that feature the companion of Charlie Pollard, played by the amazing India Fisher, who this is not actually her first time appearing as Charlie Pollard, because we need to have a little backtrack in her personal timeline. For you see, Charlie Pollard is a companion of the Doctor. However, the Sixth Doctor isn't her first Doctor. She was the first companion of the Eighth Doctor in his starting with his first Big Finish audio drama, Storm Warning. And there they had a very popular range of stories. Some include Scherzo, Chimes of Midnight, Zagreus, the one with the astronaut and the ice cream, I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, they were hugely popular, and it was during this era that maintained that Big Finish were one of the leading factors in Doctor Who continuity. In fact, some way to even argue it was because of the Eighth Doctor and Charlie's stories did a lot of people consider the Big Finish audio dramas to be the mainstay in canon, with the exception of the TV, of course. And anyway, her plotline basically is, from what I can gather, I've not listened to any of the Eighth Doctor stories because I don't know. I just don't know. I just started with this, and I haven't actually picked them up. I might get to them when I get to the Eighth Doctor. I don't know yet. I haven't decided. But anyway, from what I could gather from her story, she was originally on the R101, a balloon craft which, according to historical events, crashed. And apparently, in the Doctor Who universe, she was supposed to die, and the Eighth Doctor actually saved her from these events. And so she became a travelling companion of the Eighth Doctor, not realising that her just being alive is creating all these paradox, which culminated in Big Finish's 40th anniversary and 50th monthly range audio adventure, Zagreus, where she was aware of the Doctor's regenerations and stuff. But anyway, she later went travelling with the Eighth Doctor in an alternative universe known as the Divergent story arc. They later got freed with a later companion, and a storyline involving her with this extra companion dying. Charlie Pollard is horrified by the fact that the Eighth Doctor reacts nonchalantly like this, and so she asks to take her to Singapore to leave, where they get involved in a time-travelling adventure featuring Cybermen, and that story ends with her believing that the Eighth Doctor is dead, or at least her Doctor is dead, and she basically sends out an SOS, and a TARDIS comes to her rescue. Only to be revealed in this story that it was actually a younger incarnation of the Doctor, good old Six, that met her. But I decided to start my era of Charlie with the Sixth Doctor, mainly because I prefer seeing stuff from the Doctor's point of view. I like the idea of him going through these stories first to being like, who the hell are you? I wonder if you're this mysterious person, and then learning about her when we get to the Eighth Doctor adventures, if I tackle them, which I'm not quite sure I am yet. I know that idea doesn't really kind of work because I've done my research. I know about her. She's a very popular companion when she was an Eighth Doctor companion. But her time on the Sixth Doctor era is very underrated, and I can kind of see why with this audio drama, because remember, this was the starting point of the Sixth Doctor and Charlie Pollard era of the audio drama series. So that's a bit of backstory behind the character. And before we actually tackle the story, as always, I've got the official Big Finish CD cover right here. Isn't that cool? Sorry about my reflection there. And then, because I'm a sad bugger who really needs to get a life, I've made my own. I say I made my own. I only really did is put the right logo on it. I found it on DeviantArt. I printed out a cover of DVD for the series, as I always do with these Big Finish. That's the cover. That's the spine, if anyone is interested. Ooh, look how that cool is. And we got the back. There you go, and there's Charlie Pollard, India Fisher there, and Detective Patricia Mendez, I think her name is. Patricia, I'm sure it's Patricia, yeah. So let's get into the story. As I've explained, this story starts off with Charlie Pollard knocking on the doors of a TARDIS, thankful that her doctor is not only back and alive, but actually has come to rescue her. And she walks into the TARDIS full of tears, only to be greeted in a glossy white room and a big blonde curly head figure in a blue coat. Oh yes, we're going to have to talk about the blue coat. Well, you see, Big Finish, like a lot of people, seem to, including Colin Baker, seems not to be a huge fan of the original Sixth Doctor's costume. And so what they've done is for the Sixth Doctor and Evelyn storylines, he actually started adopting a new costume, which he wears semi-regularly, from what I can gather. Like, he wears it sometimes, but not always. Sadly, there isn't a good image on it. You can kind of see the blue collar there, but they do mention that he wears a all-blue variant on his costume, and I'm going to have to state a very controversial opinion. I'm not a fan of the all-blue suit. Sorry. I don't know, I just don't think it really works having everything blue. I like the idea of tidying it up, to making all the colours a bit more matching and give him a semi-regular costume. But this all blue, with a blue waistcoat, a blue jacket and blue trousers. I think the only thing white is his shirt. And I personally think it looks horrible. And I think, and I don't want to be one of those people who judges other people's opinions, but it does kind of come off like people are really gravitating to this costume design for the fact that it is different from his television Joseph and his coat of many colours inspired costume. I mean, if you like it, that is awesome. More power to you. You've already won. It's one of the most popular things that have come out of the Big Finish audio dramas, especially in their designs of the characters on the covers. I believe this cover is a Rob Webster one. I'm not quite sure, but it doesn't matter. But just personally, I just don't see the appeal, especially when it's like all blue. I like the idea of him getting a coloured variation which tidies it up, but the all blue, I just think, just looks absolutely ugly. Sorry. But anyway, on to the actual story. Charlie presents herself as Charlie Smith because she knows that this is a younger incarnation who doesn't know who she is. And the Doctor originally starts off by explaining to her that this is my ship, I've rescued you from the from your SOS mission, where you go in. However, things don't seem to add up as she basically runs to the TARDIS, and the Doctor realizes she isn't shocked that she found somebody in a police box that just appeared in a room that's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. And when the Doctor mentions that it is a time machine, Charlie is like, oh wow, that's very shocking, blah 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 blah. And she asks, can she stay with the Sixth Doctor? However, the Doctor doesn't seem to trust her, and it's something which would be a vocal point in their characterizations in later stories. And I really like the Sixth Doctor and Charlie. Charlie's got this, because she's from this like old-fashioned, like 1910s Edwardian culture. She's got this very distinctive way of talking. Like when she picks up the phone, her first thing to do is to go, operator, operator. And the Doctor's like, hold on, she knows about time traveling and police boxes, but she doesn't know how telephones work. Something seems a bit strange like that. And the Doctor also notices that the TARDIS has kind of taken her own little mission. She's taken the crew onto a particular point. Manchester, 2008. Yeah, we're going to have to talk about this particular element of Big Finish storytelling, where Big Finish decide that the majority of their modern day stories takes place when the CDs are released, not when the era of the show. So in my opinion, this is more of a futuristic story, because from the Sixth Doctor's point of view, who you must remember, he is an 80s Doctor. He's a Doctor that was created and regenerated in the 1980s. From this point of view then, I see this story as a future story rather than a present day story, but that's not important. Now, I stated earlier on in this video that whilst listening to this, I can understand why this being the vocal point makes it hard for people to get into the Sixth Doctor and Charlie era. Not saying that they are a bad duo, but the issue here is that the first scene they have in the actual adventure is they appear inside a flat where they find a dead body. And the first thing that the Doctor does is get Charlie to ring the phone, which we get the operator scene, and she decides to go knocking on the next flat to go knocking. And that would be the last time until just before the cliffhanger in part 3 does the Doctor and Charlie interact with each other. It's one of those cases where they separate the characters only for them to bring them back in the beginning, and I think that was a poor choice in terms of the overall getting an audience to like this duo, because they spend the rest of the storyline mainly getting separated, and it also doesn't help that the Sixth Doctor gets a surrogate companion whilst Charlie's having her own little adventure, as when she goes knocking, she gets knocked out and gets held captive by this woman, Maxine, I believe. Is it Maxine? I believe it's Maxine or Maxell, one of them. And so the police then come because another person comes in knocking to see where this guy is, and she sees this body and sees the Doctor, basically believing that he's the murderer. So she goes to the police, and the Doctor becomes a suspect. And now this is where we get to the heart of this story. This is a crime drama. It's basically like Sherlock or Elementary, you know, those kind of CIA kind of storyline. Something that the BBC would get a kick out of. doing these like low-key, on the streets crime as a group of people trying to figure out who killed this one man, and it all ravels up in family affairs and conspiracies and all that. Sounds like something that the BBC or ITV would get a kick out to do in this story. So yeah, we have to separate the stories. Let's talk about Charlie's segment first. She gets held captive by Maxwell, who claims that she doesn't actually want to be part of this, and she wasn't the one who captured Charlie and put her there. But in fact, she was hired by somebody, the one who knocked Charlie out, to keep her there and help her and get information out of her. But Charlie doesn't know what the hell anyone's talking about. From her point of view, she's just arrived. And whilst this is all going on, when Maxwell leaves the room, a phone call from the phone near Charlie rings, and Charlie answers it, and we get introduced to a character called Sam. Now, Sam doesn't seem to know where he is. He believes he's in the basement, but he can't see anything, and he doesn't know. He just remembers being in here and getting locked up in the basement, and that he's been calling around the entire building, and nobody seems to be taking him seriously. And so he rang this phone and called up Charlie, to which Charlie basically listens as like, maybe the person who has captured you has also captured me. So I'm going to try and break out, and you just stay put. We also get a really fun scene where Maxwell comes back, and they talk about how ordering an Indian, and Charlie Pollard, being from 1910s Singapore, basically doesn't know what's going on. It's like, what are we talking about, southern or northern? And she's talking about all of this, these kind of foods which Maxwell doesn't actually know what the hell she's on about. And so, yeah, there's a lot of great intrigue. Charlie shows that she's such a nice, sweet character that she actually kind of befriends her captive, the woman who's holding her there, despite her keeping her there unless she tells some information which she doesn't know about the dead body or anything she knows about it. But the dynamic seems to really work, and you're really intrigued on who this Sam character is, what's going on. It's basically a thriller, as we don't know what's going on. It's basically a modern noir in that sense. And Charlie's character really shines out here, and despite her being a captive and stuff, she's so calm and collective, and is like, all right, I'll get you out. And her posh demeanour really, it's just something charming to listen to. At one point, she mentions to Sam that she's handcuffed to the bed, I believe, and that these handcuffs are really sturdy, and she's struggling. And when Sam notes that, wait a minute, did you just say you're in handcuffs? Charlie's like, yeah, I am. And oh wait, hold on, they seem to be really rusty. I can even break these. And so, with a little bit of effort, she breaks them up and goes down to try and find Samuel. Only before that, she gets interrupted. She gets distracted as this girl seems to be really depressed and actually witnesses a suicide and considers committing suicide herself. So Charlie tries to prevent that. When she goes down to the basement after witnessing something strange with the thing, she goes down into the basement where seemingly light seems to be completely vanishing. She tries turning on the lights, but the lights won't turn on. She has a little lighter, but despite her clearly feeling the flames and her hand burns, she doesn't see any light. there's also a situation where Sam seems to also somehow know where she is and can call her from anywhere of the building. Sam claims it's a lucky guess. And she basically is like, Sam's like, you should be able to hear me. It's like, all right, I'll hang up and then you call out. She hangs up. We get a moment of silence. And then the phone rings again. Didn't you hear me? No. I can hear you. I could have heard you clearly. What? What's going on? Something isn't right. And so Charlie panics and leaving Samuel there, wondering just what the hell is going on. And this intrigue, this the way it's set up, the way it's plot is excellently executed. Despite this being 4 episodes long on 2 discs, which is common for more early Big Finish audio dramas, but later on they would shorten their runtime so that they can keep it on to 1 disc. But here the story is kind of long for an audio drama, from what I can gather, because I mainly have listened to the more modern ones, and despite it being a lot longer than I'm usually used to, it didn't feel any longer than I'm usually used to, and it's really due to Eddie Robson's pacing. Say what you want to say about his writing. He's usually more known for his 8th Doctor adventures, which is kind of ironic that he would write the 6th Doctor with an 8th Doctor companion. I don't know if he's written any 8th Doctor Charlie stories. If you know, please feel free to comment which stories he's written for them. I'd be grateful to know. And yeah, this little bit of the story is just really intriguing. But on the flip side, we have the 6th Doctor basically befriending D.I. Patricia Mendez, a detective who starts off not believing in the Doctor's situation and who he is. And the Doctor originally wasn't planning to tell her anything. However, after basically it's like, right, me just randomly appearing in this dead guy's apartment seems really suspicious. I'll tell you what, go to the morgue, take up his body, and you'll find something between his arm and his back. Somewhere but there. I mean, it's an audio drama, you can't actually see it. And the doctor tells her to pull it, and so she goes to investigate. And when she picks this thing out of this dead body, it transforms into a red, jelly-like creature the Doctor knows as a Splinx, which is a nice little nod, as Splinx is also a minor race in Doctor Who that would later appear in Human Resources, I believe. So Mendez, now believing that the Doctor is at least knows more than he's telling, befriends the Doctor, and for a final nail to make sure that he trusts the Doctor explains, or at least shows how he got into the room, and he flies the TARDIS just outside the building. She takes him there, and so they basically start investigating the case. It's also here that the head of department is basically like, how dare you even listen to this? He was the only man there, he's our main suspect, and you're just letting him wandering around and examining all of our evidence. That is clearly very immature detective work. But Mendez doesn't seem to really care, as he's on the case of this mystery. And so basically she's basically the companion in this story, and I really like Patricia Mendez. If you like this character, you'll be glad to know that she returns in a few audio dramas. Another one in the Big Finish monthly range, the Rain Cloud Man, which I have, which I'm not listening to because I didn't get it in time. She's also appeared in a audio drama of a box set featuring the Sixth Doctor and Charlie, which, again, I'm not tackling that one because I couldn't get her in time, which is a crime shit. So this is the only story I've got of hers. And I'm so glad that she does appear again. She's played by Anna Hope, and she's probably known to most people as one of the cat people in New Who. She gives this Manchesterian, is that even a word? Detective, real down and gritty. It reminds me a lot of like Ashes to Ashes or Life on Mars. You know, that kind of detective, the one who knows that there are bad cops, dirty cops, and she needs to be a little bit rougher and tougher. But she does it in the name of justice, and she basically acts all tough to get what she wants and what she needs. And she balances well with the Sixth Doctor. This is also, I completely forgot to mention, with the Sixth Doctor, this story takes place after a huge chunk of the Sixth Doctor and Evelyn stories. Evelyn being the first Sixth Doctor companion in the audio dramas. In their era of the audio dramas, the kind of Sixth Doctor's master plan, in which this more broody, aggressive Doctor was tamed, if you will, if you use the expression, to be a much more kinder, heartwarming, likeable character. Yeah, he has little outbursts. I mean, especially to Charlie, in a way that he doesn't quite listen to her. He doesn't quite trust her. But it's more of just a slight snug than anything shouting or outbursts, unless the situation calls for it. And so in this story, the Sixth Doctor is a lot more calmer than we've previously seen of him. That is what the blue costume is supposed to represent, that this is a Doctor who's more in tune with his emotions, a Doctor who's much more tidier, balanced, and overall just a much more sane person then, if you would. He's a bit more closer to what we would consider the core characteristics of the Doctor. And this more sweet-hearted Sixth Doctor compared to this almost badass Detective Mendez really work off each other well. And again, this is what I think was a big issue, is that the Doctor, with this character being basically the companion of this story, and they get along so well and they're so interesting that from this story's point of view, you kind of wish that she was going to become the companion apart from Charlie. Yeah, the story does kind of struggle trying to show the Sixth Doctor and Charlie becoming a crew, letting the Doctor join her in the TARDIS team, when the majority of the plot, they're hardly together. Mendez also reports that somebody from the estate has called up talking about there's been a dead body, someone has kidnapped her, somebody's taken, has been hiding underneath the basement, but she couldn't find him. But she says that this call was coming from a one who claims that she was Charlie Pollard and not Charlie Smith, as she told the Sixth Doctor. So the Doctor is, again, a lot more curious about her. It's like, that's strange. Why would she say Pollard now and Smith then? It doesn't make a lot of sense. And so they keep investigating, and their investigation takes them to one of the officers who knows about aliens, who knows about organization, and he's kind of like a doctor, and he knows about some of the aliens that are hiding on Earth, and he's basically learned of a sort of conspiracy, as one of them seems to have some sort of, not a relation like a family relation, but he seems to know him and has something to do with his murder. They also learn that the dead man had a wife, and so they go investigate her, and they interview her and discuss it. And it's kind of your basic, I think basic, the setups and how the scenes play up are your basic detective story, and it works phenomenally well setting up the stakes. The story, when we get to at the end of part 3, all of our mainstay characters are in this state, as Charlie locks up Maxwell in to where she was captured, and Charlie then gets to meet up with the character who claims to be the dead man's wife. She basically explains that she was the one who knocked out Charlie. She was the one who called Maxwell to lock her up, and she also explains that she already knows who murdered her husband. For you see, she planned it with this man. However, the man that she planned this with, the person who she was supposed to run off with, went missing. This man is named Sam. Yeah, that kind of rhymed. That man's named Sam. And Charlie kind of clicks like, wait a minute, what? And so with part 3, we have all our characters as the Sixth Doctor enters the building, and I can't remember if he wants to get shot, or I can't remember what the cliffhanger for part 3 is. One of my biggest issues with this story, which I don't think is Eddie Robson's strong point, is the cliffhangers. All of the cliffhangers feel extremely weak. Especially one where the Doctor is poisoned. It comes a bit too quick. I think they should have left that scene play out a bit more before the cliffhanger comes out. One of them is just the Doctor getting arrested. And yeah, I don't think the cliffhangers are very strong here. They seem too sudden. They seem too close from when the cliffhanger starts to be triggered to when the credits actually roll. And I think they could have been a lot stronger if they were set up just a little bit minutes before, longer before the credits roll. Especially that poison one, which turns out to be aspirin. This is something which has actually been established in multiple Doctor Who continuities, like the books, the audio dramas, that Time Lords, their biology works so that aspirin is actually a deadly poison to Time Lords. That's a really fun fact. I believe the third Doctor was also poisoned by aspirin. I can't remember. But anyway, back onto the story at hand. The Doctor kind of works out something that's going on. Basically, this is a spoiler, by the way. I mean, I should have really put spoiler at the end. But this is like the main spoiler if you don't want to know how the story kind of ends. So the Doctor basically works out that this the guy who is being murdered, he was part of a secret organisation to get a particular device. The Doctor learns that he has a terminal illness, and he had this device to try to extend his life. However, the murder kind of took place with Sam killing him. However, this device then activated on Sam, and his state, his being, was transformed. So technically his consciousness became, went into and absorbed by the building. Sam is a sentient building. I mean, it shouldn't work. It sounds absolutely ridiculous. And it is. But it's one of those fun sci-fi ideas that, with this urban setting of like blocks of flats, the police office and all that, it does kind of sort of work. Especially when we've got this whole build up to it. And all the other characters kind of else treat, apart from really the Doctor and Charlie, all the other characters kind of treat it as if Samuel's spirit is haunting the building instead. They also learn that the guy who gave the dead guy the suitcase, the device, was actually this kind of mob boss, Slater, who was trying to plan a secret invasion, and he would use this device to kind of basically put him and his race's souls into buildings where they can affect people's minds. This explains how Samuel can communicate to everybody by phone, and all the depression that Charlie saw with the suicide, the dead person and the girl that she saved, that the dead people, the depression was actually a psychic projection of Samuel's own sadness and depression, and his mental state was affecting people. So that's what this device does. And this guy, Slater, his plans to get his race to basically take over these buildings where they can suggest people to vote a certain way, to act a particular way that they want. And if not, they can just make them really depressed and kill them without any suspicions, without anybody getting the least bit concerned, as they could just write them off as suicides or like murders and stuff from other human beings. So this plan was a diversion, and Slater actually comes up to the building, but he doesn't know that Samuel has activated the machine, or if he did, he doesn't know that it works. And so the Doctor instructs Samuel to be quiet. Slater first explains on the phone that he knows a cure, but when he comes up to the flats with his henchman, he proclaims that there is actually no cure. There is no way to reverse the process. To which Sam goes berserk and goes nuts, and so Slater escapes held in the wife character at gunpoint and tells her to go down the steps because Sam has blocked the elevators. So Charlie goes into the elevator and locks them both in the elevator. To which Sam tells Slater to give the gun to the wife character because she was the one at the affair. And she basically, it was her fault that she was his soul is being made like this. She also later explains that the reason why she made him murder her husband is because divorces just don't apply on her planet, and she wanted the insurance money basically. And so that's why she made Sam kill him. But Sam tells Slater to give her his gun and to give her the phone, to which Sam proclaims, "You made me kill someone, and it's haunted me, and I can never live with that. So I'm going to return the favour. You kill Slater so that you know how it feels. And after a huge dilemma, she shoots him dead. And that kind of wraps up the story as Mendez tries to explain the rest of this to her police co-workers. Maxwell stays in the flat and hopes that with the influence of Samuel, he can keep the block of flats running continuously. And the doctor decides to take Charlie back to her own place and time. He's like really hesitant on getting her to where she wanted to be. However, Charlie doesn't seem to know. She puts on the act that she doesn't remember, especially when the doctor confronts her about her last name. It's like, you said you were Smith, but you said on the phone that you were Pollard. And she's like, oh yeah, I couldn't remember. I struggle with memory loss. I said Smith because I couldn't remember my name and I didn't want to feel stupid, which was a lie. But the doctor kind of knows this. He kind of feels this presence, and the doctor's like, this is strangely convenient that you lost your memory. And she's like, oh yes, of course. But you know what would help me if to remember? The doctor's like, what? If you take me with you, traveling around through the universe. And so the doctor, almost kind of reluctantly, lets her on board the TARDIS. And so I believe this is the first time in my marathon that we have a fully standing audio companion. And that's The Condemned. Overall, it's a very great story. It's not particularly like amazing, but it's not just okay. It lies in that it's great, but not like the greatest thing that you've ever seen, if that makes any sense. The cliffhangers are really weak, and I think they could have been a lot stronger. The idea to start off this era of the Doctor and companion relationship with a story which hardly features them interacting, and not only that, having the Doctor having a surrogate companion that he works really well with, was a very poor decision in terms of marketing and putting this idea of this Doctor and companion era forward. However, besides that, this story has got great pacing, it's got a great mystery, it's got nice twists and turns, and it has something to say about refugees and the implications of a mystery and a local conspiracy. So yeah, I highly recommend it, The Condemned. Go listen to it. And please, if you're a fan of the Sixth Doctor and Charlie, please let me know, because I know a lot of people like the Eighth Doctor and Charlie, but I don't hear a lot of people who are fond, or at least are aware of the Sixth Doctor and Charlie. So if you do like them, please comment below, let me know. I really just want to hear people talk about this era, because I'm really fascinated of having a future companion travel with a previous incarnation of the Doctor, and the Doctor's been is with a companion he doesn't really fully trust. It just sounds like a really interesting idea. So there you go, that's The Condemned. So join me next time where we will be listening to our first story in the last adventure range, which is actually the second story on the box set, as the Doctor and Charlie interact with reverse werewolves and a future incarnation, a darker incarnation of the Doctor. So I'll see you next time for The Red House, and I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-da!